Yes, indeed. You already know what it is, man. It's your boy, EBS, a.k.a. Eddie B. Swift, a.k.a. the Turntable Abuser, man. Man, just the culture itself, man. I mean, I started at a time where, hip-hop was in the transition, at least for me, because I grew up in Bronx River, which is basically right around Bronx River Projects where Africa Went By and all of that was happening. And we was transitioning out from b-boying, breakdancing, where, kind of like had a little low, and a lot of people was transitioning, heading over to either selling drugs or getting into another phase of dancing. And I kind of like wasn't feeling that new wave of dancing, which was like, a lot of that early house music and so forth, webo dancing, freestyle action. And then, my other people was doing the drug dealing route. So, I always liked the attention aspect, man, and went to a house party and seen my man, John J., old local legend from the BX, man, had a setup in his house, man. His father always had crazy equipment. And he's playing, he had a mixer going on. I think it was a Bozak mixer, if I'm not mistaken. It's two old-ass turntables, man. And, he was just playing records. And I was fascinated because this dude was ugly as shit. Like, God bless him. John J., that's my man, but he was ugly. And every chick in the party was digging him. So I was like, yo, I need that in my life. You know what I'm saying? Like, that whole aspect, of just being the center of attention totally intrigued me, man. And just because I was so evolved with music, I've been music collecting since early age, man. I'm talking about like since 5, 6 years old, collecting 45s and inheriting my father's joints when he didn't want to play no more records and shit, got into his 8-track phase. At that time, hip-hop was considered real urban, was considered real black, and there wasn't too many Puerto Ricans that was represented. Like everybody, that was coming up that was Spanish really wasn't getting that credibility, that we should have gotten, you know what I'm saying? Because it was looked on as just like a black thing. And, I was going to house parties, going to all the jams, hitting up all the park jams that they used to have out by Crotona, up there in 163rd and Fox, up in Monroe High School. They used to do jams right there in the projects. I was going to all of those, man, and just being seen and getting behind the rope. Because as a DJ, if you got behind the rope, that means you were somebody. And that was my thing. Like, I wasn't even worried about DJ. I was just worried about getting behind the rope. Once I got behind the rope, getting on the tables was going to happen eventually. So one thing vivid in my mind, and because I just did a show with him in L.A. when I was, because I'm on Be Real TV, and I was doing a show with my boy Mark Love on Zulu Tribe Radio, and he had KRS-One come down. Now, KRS-One, we already know the history. While we've crossed paths many a time, I've never had a chance to build with him. And we're talking about this is over 20 years in the making. It just so happens that, the event where he infamously threw Prince B, off the stage, I was kind of a part of that event. So to be able to share that with him, man, that for me, that was one of my great memories that I remember because I was a part of the event. It's monumental shit. The first set of turntables that I actually owned that I bought went to Rock and Soul and paid $60 each for a pair of Gemini 101 turntables. The worst fucking turntables ever. Can I curse? Worst fucking turntables ever made, man. But, that was what my money was calling for. And I got I had a Gemini 2200 mixer, which, if you understand, if you know the DJ culture, man, that was the mixer that was made infamous by DJ Jazzy Jeff and Cash Money, that they used it in the DMC competitions. Basically, wood grain finish on the sides, small, fit right there on your turntables, dopest mix out there. But yeah, I started off with a pair of Gemini 101s, had a pair of Gem Sound speakers, and a Marantz amp. My pop shit, you know what I'm saying? You had the whole set. I take the amp out, just hook up my speakers and rock out to. Now, 20 some odd years later, it's now that they understand what has happened. I don't think that they truly understand the passion that I had for it. They didn't, they still were like, Eddie, you working yet? Like they never understood that this is what was my chosen profession. This is what I love to do. And for years they was like, Eddie, you got to get out of that. You know what I'm saying? It's not, it's not going to lead you anywhere. I didn't have the support needed. You know what I'm saying? But they always were supportive of me as a person. But on the music level, never really got that, because they always wanted what they considered better for me, which was to work a 9 to 5 and, and do it like that. But, it wasn't in the cards. Man, if you do something you love, man, so you're always going to have a thing for it. I mean, at the end of the day, man, I don't do this for the money, man. Like, my love for music in general and just just being around it, man, I'm passionate about this. Like, I get emotional when I DJ. Like, I really take it to heart. Like, you see me when I'm rocking, you see the bounce is heavy. Like, you know, that's what they know me for. Where, you know, you see me rocking, all you see is my head movements. I don't like to talk too much because when I talk, I feel all discombobulated. I'll be like the clumsy dancer. That's why I started DJing, because I couldn't dance. Like, after breakdancing, you can't come up to a chick like, yo, what's up, shorty? Come up there, top rock. Like, I couldn't do that. You know what I'm saying? I would come up to, you know, my whole thing was, you know, I had the DJ, and the DJ, there was no two-step, and it was just one spot, you know, a hunchback, you know what I'm saying? And that's how I kept it going, man. And to this day, man, I still have passion for it. I still love it, man. I wake up, you know, I do it all the time, man. It's just, you know, hip-hop is not something you do. Hip-hop is something you live, man. And, you know, I live this. I guess earlier on was the whole Puerto Rican aspect. You know, it was really hard to get that acceptance because, you know, earlier on it was predominantly black. And you know, the DJs, it's not like today, man. You got a DJ in every corner. I'm pretty sure, like right now, them people that's walking over there, somebody DJs in the house because they got a MIDI controller. But like when I was coming up, you knew who was DJing. There was only but so many. And the majority of them, you can name them, they was all black. There wasn't too many Puerto Ricans, if any, repping. Like, I remember specifically, like, in the 1990 DMCs, Riz came out in that year, you know, that's my dude, white dude, you know, it's crazy. I mean, you know, to me, hip-hop is colorless in my mind, but, you know, at that time, there really wasn't a lane for us. You know, we had to work harder than everybody else did. And just to bring up, like, a quick instance, I was playing ball, you know, before, in my skinny days when I was svelte. I used to play a lot of basketball, and I'm over there in the basketball courts, and, you know, during the games, you know, at the end of the game, we're talking, whatever have you, and these kids off to the side of me, you know, they talk about mixtapes. So, you know, it was like, yo, you got that new mixtape by DB Swift? So I'm like, all right, did he say this? Because I'm standing here, and, like, I come to think, like, I'm hearing them, they have no idea that I'm Eddie B. Swift. So I'm hearing them, and he said, yeah. He said, yo, you know him? He said, yeah, this is a black kid from Bronx River. Yo, for me, I was like... You know, I had to take that, you know, like, I didn't come out and say nothing. I was not a vocal person. I didn't come out and be like, yo, that's, you know, I wasn't that dude. You know, I you know, found a way to let my music do the talking. And then when they found out who it was, that's when I started getting accepted. And you know, I had a lot to do with a lot of the transition into hip-hop when a lot of the clubs started closing down in the early 90s, you know. I guess to stay relevant, like, you know, after 25 years, you know, to still be in this business and to still be relevant and to still, you know, be at top form, man, you know, unfortunately, you know, a lot of people when they get to my age kind of like decline, you know, but unlike baseball and all that other stuff, you know, I work hard to maintain a certain level, a skill set, and to be able to do that, you know, that's probably one of my proudest accomplishments, which probably it's meaningless to everybody else. But for me, you know, 43, so I've been around the block a few times, man, you know. I ran a few miles here and there, man, and still to be able to do it at the level I'm doing it, man, is probably what I'm most proud of. The fact that you can still talk about Eddie B. Swift at that amount of time, man, good or bad, means I was always in your mind. So, you know, to still be able to be recognized, you know, and to me, like I said, that to me is a legacy within itself, and to pass on musical knowledge, because, you know, I think today that's what a lot of these new kids is missing, and you know, to be able to mentor them, and, you know, have them look up to us, and, you know, ask us relevant questions, you know, not just, you know, that asinine question that they'll ask because, you know, they're like, oh, that's an OG right there, you know, like kids, the new ones genuinely want to know, like, what did it take? And, you know, and that to me is probably some of my proudest moments, to see a lot of those kids that I talk to, after I talk to them, kind of like go upwards.